Hello, I just thought I'd make a video to show off this new quad that I built. What's that? Another. Yes, another quadcopter. I just can't stop. Anyway, this one is not entirely a new creation because it's actually the guts of it has come from this little aluminium one that I'd made a few months ago, and this one turned out to be very, very fragile. And I flew it once outside, and because I actually had these things on the end here. So one little crash was enough to bend these pieces here quite severely, so I didn't want to fly it outside anymore, but I did want something that I could fly outside, so that's what this is. And it's wood, as you can see, and still pretty small. It's like almost fits in the hand, but it's much, much more rigid and sturdy, so it should be able to handle a crash much better than the other one. The slight drawback is that there's not much protection around the motors now, but with the rate that the grass is growing at the area that I fly, pretty much anywhere you crash is going to be a nice soft landing at the moment. And I also wanted to change from using the NAS F32 board to using a multi-Wii board because I wanted to do this one using my version of the multi-Wii radio protocol, which uses the NRF24 module directly. So that's what this is all about. The long-term goal of what I'm trying to do here is I've been thinking I might want to make a follow me kind of a drone with a camera that can follow you around while you're doing something. And this one here may not end up being the first one that actually does that for me, because it's a little bit small, and it's probably going to have a bit of trouble carrying a camera for too long, but I'll give it a try with this anyway. So what I'm going to do for starters is just put a GPS on there and just record. Have this GPS that I'm going to fit on here and just record the positions of that as it flies around and send it back to the transmitter. And then once I've got the altitude hold and GPS hold and everything worked out properly, because I still haven't got that worked out, but once that's done, I'll then turn it around so that the transmitter tells this one where to go. So it's going to change the point for the GPS hold dynamically while it's flying. Anyway, so I took a few photos of this while I was building it, which I'll show you now, and just quickly go over that, and then we'll have a little flight video. Where are we? I started with two 15 by 5mm pieces of wood and cut those like that, rather than having one that went straight through and then one that was cut in the middle. I thought it might be a bit stronger to have them both going straight through so that they fit together like that. And then the piece of wood goes over the top and the bottom, glued down. I have some screws in there as well now, but the bulk of the strength is just going to be from glue, and that's 29 grams at that point. I used the prop guard thing as a template again to drill holes for the motor mounts, and gouged a little bit out in the middle to keep some space for the motor shaft. And the screws I had were a little bit too long, so I put some cork pads on the bottom and the same rubber base plate things that I used before on the top, and that brought the screws to just the right length with a nice bit of vibration damping effect as well. And I didn't actually unsolder the wiring for the ESC thing at all. I just stuck it straight on, and there's one point here where it's actually the motor wires are almost a little bit too short. They're pulled quite tight once the motors are stuck on there, but I couldn't be bothered lengthening it just for like another 2mm. Just didn't seem worth it. One thing I did do was replace this cap here, since I bought a bunch of capacitors for my other quadcopter that I found that I no longer need now. I just thought I'd upgrade that one to a higher voltage rating one than what it originally had. And then on top of that, stuck another piece of wood for the sensor mounting and stuff with some standoffs, and I just put a little bit of foam block on the top and the bottom of the ESC board to hold it in place, which is probably not that great because it's going to prevent it from cooling very well. But I couldn't think of a nice way to stick it in there otherwise. Anyway, so on there I just placed the Pro Mini, and this is a 5-volt Pro Mini, so of course we need to have a separate voltage regulator to run the RF24 module on 3 volts. So that's what that's there for. And the ESC control inputs for the motors come along here. I used a pin header, upside down pin header like that, so that you can, it's quite convenient actually when you do it that way. You have bare pins sticking out equally on the top and the bottom for soldering things on, so you have 2 solder points on each pin automatically. So that was turned out to be quite helpful. I think that's about it. And the accelerometer gyro I'm using is this one here. This actually came with a camera gimbal controller board that I connected up the wrong way and promptly blew up. So this accelerometer gyro was sitting around not being used, so I just stuck that one on there. It's MPU 6050 as usual. And there we go. So I haven't actually flown this outside yet, so I'll go and take some video of that, and when I get back I'll put it all together and show you how it flies. I flew it inside here. It flies quite nice. Oh, wait a minute, just before we do that I wanted to take a little measure and see what we get for weight. I think it's about 175 grams all up, so it's 124 just like that. And this is the battery that I'm intending to fly it with most of the time. It's a 2S 900 milliamp hour battery, and with the props on I'm going to stick with 50-30 props for this because it needs to spin pretty fast. Anyway, so 174 grams for everything there. So it's actually the other one was 190 grams, so this is actually 16 grams lighter than that one, even though it's bigger and a fair bit more sturdier. And I think most of the weight loss there is due to not having these things, because these are actually surprisingly heavy. Let's see if I put this on, or 175 now. If I put this on here, we'll go up to 180. So they're about 5 grams each, or 20 grams for 4. So yeah, surprisingly heavy, those things. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's go and fly it. Well, there we go. That was the maiden flight outdoors, and as you can see, it started off very well, and it gets good flight time. This is a 2S 900 milliamp hour battery, and it gets over 12 minutes with this. However, as you can see here, that's probably going to be the last time this quad, or this frame at least, goes flying, because for my last battery I had a 3S battery and I thought I'd try some flips, and my stupid cheap-ass transmitter has been having a lot of problems lately. I can barely keep up a transmission within about 10 meters. So right in the middle of a flip, it decided to cut out, and well, not cut out, but the radio signals. I programmed it to keep the last signal for 1 second before cutting the throttle. So it just slammed straight down into the ground at full throttle with 3S battery, and for 175 grams that was moving pretty fast, and discovered the weak point is once again where the holes are drilled in the wood. So that was the same problem I had with my other quad. It kept breaking wherever there were holes. So definitely when you're making holes, yeah, keep that in mind. So that's unfortunate, and it also reminds me now of my aversion to gluing things together instead of using screws to hold them together. I think I mentioned in my cheap-ass quadcopter build that I didn't like gluing things very much because it has a certain finality about it. So here's a good demonstration of that, because if I had not glued it together, I could just take this piece of wood out, unscrew everything, remove it, and make another piece of wood and put it back in, and we're ready to go. But now the whole frame, well, apart from this top plate, is going to needs to be replaced, which is kind of a bummer, but it was fun while it lasted. I'll just have to make another one, won't I? What a pity. Actually, to tell the truth, I'm already halfway through building another one at the same time, so I really just can't stop. By the way, about that transmitter problem that I'm having, I'm beginning to suspect that it may be damage caused to the transmitter module by not having the antenna connected, which I have done occasionally, because it's just getting worse and worse, and it used to be very good. This is the one that I used for my car test up to 300 meters away, and I had to stop at 300 meters because the video connection was cutting out, not because of the radio control connection. And I've used to routinely fly my quadcopter up to a couple of 100 meters away doing FPV. But these days, I can't even stand next to, like, for example, this quad, and with this antenna, I can't even stand next to it and get a solid connection. And with one of these type antennas, as you saw, it's getting about 10 to 15 meters. Well, you didn't see in this video, but in one of my other videos I mentioned that. So yeah, 10, maybe 20 meters if you're lucky with this at the moment. But I have a bunch of these NRF24 radio modules, getting quite a collection now, including some new types of ones like these that I haven't used before. So I'm going to put together a video where I test the ranges of these, and I'm going to also try testing the range of this RF module that's in my transmitter that I have been abusing by not connecting the antenna. I thought that antennas, the radio modules, would damage completely so that they wouldn't be usable, but I've been doing a little bit of looking around the net, and it seems that they can be damaged gradually. So that might fit the symptoms of what I'm seeing, where it just gradually gets worse and worse over time. Anyway, we'll see how that goes in a future video.